What if the money in your bank account, the cash in your wallet, was quietly becoming obsolete? Not because of Apple Pay or credit cards, but because of a global financial reset engineered behind the scenes that most of the world has never even heard of. For years, we've been told our financial system is stable, that our money is safe. But beneath the surface, the foundations are cracking. And in the shadows, a new system is being built. This isn't a story about the stock market. It's not about your retirement plan. This is about the very nature of money itself. The clues are scattered across technical white papers, closed door meetings of central bankers, and experimental projects that are quietly laying the groundwork for a new global economy. They tell us it's about making payments faster and cheaper, but what if it's about something else entirely? What if it's about control? Tonight, we're going on an investigation. We'll follow the evidence. From the decaying power of the US dollar to the two competing visions for the future of your money. One path leads to a world of unprecedented surveillance, a digital currency controlled by the very institutions that have failed us before. The other leads to a decentralized open source financial system, a hidden blockchain that promises to return power to the people. By the end of this, you'll understand the monumental choice that's being made for you and what it could mean for your financial future. This is the story of the hidden blockchain that could one day replace the dollar. So, why would we even need a new system? To put it simply, the one we have is breaking. The system we live in, the one based on the US dollar as the world's reserve currency, is showing signs of a terminal illness. And the diagnosis isn't controversial. The symptoms are everywhere. The most obvious symptom is inflation. It's the silent tax that eats away at your savings and your paycheck day after day. While official stories might try to downplay it, the reality is that the cumulative loss of purchasing power has been staggering. Since the start of 2020, persistent inflation has eaten away a massive chunk of the dollar's value. That's not a statistic from some fringe blog. That's the mathematical reality of what your money buys today compared to 5 years ago. This isn't an accident. It's a direct consequence of monetary policy. The dual mandate of central banks like the Federal Reserve tasks them with maintaining both price stability and maximum employment. But the gold price stability has often taken a back seat. In times of crisis, the solution has been simple: print more money. This approach, meant to stimulate the economy, fundamentally devalues the currency already in circulation. It punishes savers and rewards debtors. It's a core critique from those who believe we're entering a new monetary era, arguing that fiat currencies, unbacked by any physical asset, are inherently prone to this kind of devaluation by central authorities. But the problem runs deeper than just inflation. There's a growing crisis of trust. Trust in banks, trust in governments, trust in the very institutions meant to be the stewards of our economic well-being. You can even see it in mainstream policy debates. Groups involved in discussions like the Heritage Foundation's Project 2025 have leveled deep critiques at the Fed's discretionary power, sparking serious conversations about reform, with some even floating ideas like a return to a gold standard to enforce discipline. While these ideas aren't official policy, their presence in these circles shows just how deep the dissatisfaction runs. The argument is that an independent central bank, insulated from democratic accountability, can create instability and moral hazard. This loss of faith isn't just a philosophical debate, it has real world consequences. It's what's fueling the search for an alternative. When the foundation of the entire global financial system, the US dollar, is seen as being managed in a way that consistently destroys its value, the world starts looking for an exit. And the rest of the world is looking. We're witnessing a quiet but deliberate move away from dollar dependence. Nations are increasingly settling trades in their own currencies. Central banks are diversifying their reserves. This isn't just economic posturing, it's a strategic preparation for a world where the dollar is no longer the undisputed king. The International Monetary Fund itself has warned that the global economy is entering a new era of uncertainty and slower growth, a landscape ripe for disruption. So we have the motive: a failing, inflation-prone system losing the trust of its users. We have the opportunity: a global landscape where nations are actively seeking alternatives. All that's missing is the weapon, the technology to make a replacement possible. And that brings us to the two competing blueprints for the future of money. One is being designed in plain sight by governments, the other is being built from the ground up by innovators. This is where the battle for your financial future truly begins. Faced with a decaying financial system and the threat of decentralized cryptocurrencies, governments and central banks have cooked up their answer: the central bank digital currency, or CBDC. On the surface, it's pitched as a simple upgrade, a digital version of the dollar, the euro, or the yen, issued directly by the central bank. They promise faster, cheaper payments and greater financial inclusion. But when you look past the marketing, a very different picture emerges. A CBDC isn't just digital cash, it's programmable money, and that one feature changes everything. A CBDC would exist on a centralized ledger controlled by the central bank. This is fundamentally different from cash or the money in your bank account. It means that for the first time in history, the government could have a direct, real-time view into every single transaction you make. The IMF and other global institutions have openly discussed the huge privacy implications. In a CBDC world, financial privacy as we know it could simply cease to exist. Every coffee you buy, every book you read, every donation you make, it could all be logged on a government server. The Federal Reserve's own research has acknowledged the challenge of balancing surveillance and privacy. Early papers on a potential US CBDC used fuzzy phrases like privacy protected, but the technical reality is simple. If the government runs the ledger, it holds the keys. The potential for control is not a conspiracy theory, it's a stated risk highlighted by civil liberties advocates. Imagine a system where your funds could be frozen or seized with the flip of a digital switch, without due process, based on your political views. Imagine your spending being restricted, blocked from buying gasoline because you've hit your monthly carbon limit, or unable to buy a plane ticket because you're in a designated lockdown zone. This is the world that programmable money makes possible. Beyond the Orwellian concerns, there are also massive risks to the financial system. The Federal Reserve has warned that a popular interest-bearing CBDC could trigger a mass exodus from commercial banks, destabilizing the entire banking sector. If everyone pulls their money out of their bank to put it in a safer Fed-controlled digital wallet, the system that provides loans for cars, homes, and businesses could grind to a halt. For years, the development of a US CBDC was proceeding quietly. Project Hamilton, a venture between the Boston Fed and MIT, explored the tech for a high-speed digital dollar, detailing architectures that could handle over 100,000 transactions per second. However, the political winds in the United States have shifted dramatically. In early 2025, the Trump administration issued an executive order that halted all federal work on a retail CBDC, citing threats to financial stability and individual privacy. This move represents a monumental fork in the road. While the US has hit the brakes on a retail CBDC for now, the executive order and the administration's broader stance suggest an openness to a different kind of digital dollar, privately issued dollar-backed stablecoins. It's a move that aims to foster blockchain technology while drawing a hard line against a government-controlled currency. This creates a fascinating tension. The US government has, for now, rejected the path of centralized control, but the global conversation hasn't stopped. China's digital yuan is in a massive pilot phase, with cumulative transactions already reaching the equivalent of hundreds of billions of US dollars. The European Central Bank is deep into its digital euro project. Dozens of other countries are in development. So while the immediate threat of a Fed coin in the US has receded, the global template for a surveillance-based monetary system is still being built. The technology explored in projects like Hamilton wasn't thrown in the trash, it was a proof of concept. It showed what was possible. The decision by the US to halt its own project doesn't stop the global march toward CBDCs. It just changes America's role. The battle has now shifted. It's no longer just about if we will have digital money, but who will control it, central banks or the people. We are at a critical moment in history, and understanding this stuff is the first step towards securing your own financial autonomy. The information is dense, and it's all changing fast. If you're finding this investigation valuable and want to stay ahead of the curve, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next. While governments have been designing their vision of centralized, programmable money, a parallel financial system has been evolving, built on a totally different philosophy: decentralization. This is the world of blockchain, a world that promises not top-down control, but peer-to-peer freedom. It's often dismissed as a playground for speculators, but that's like looking at the early internet and only seeing dancing baby GIFs. The real revolution is the infrastructure. At its core, a blockchain is just a shared, unchangeable ledger. Instead of one entity, like a bank or a government, controlling the records, the ledger is spread across thousands of computers worldwide. This makes it incredibly resilient and, most importantly, censorship resistant. No single person or authority can change the history or freeze your assets. That's the foundational promise, a financial system that belongs to everyone and is controlled by no one. This decentralized dream isn't one single thing. It's a layered ecosystem with each layer solving a different part of the puzzle. The first layer, of course, was Bitcoin. It proved you could have a secure, scarce digital asset, often called digital gold, that existed outside the control of any government. It was the ultimate expression of that new monetary era idea, calling for a return to a disciplined asset-backed system. But to replace the dollar, a technology needs to be more than just a store of value. It needs to be a medium of exchange. This is where the second layer comes in, stablecoins. These are digital tokens pegged one-to-one with a currency like the US dollar. They act as a bridge between the old financial world and the new. Companies like Circle, with their USDC stablecoin, provide a digital dollar that can move at the speed of the internet 24/7 across the globe without a bank. As of late 2025, the US administration has signaled a preference for these privately issued tokens over a state-controlled CBDC, seeing them as a way to project the dollar's influence in the digital age. But even stablecoins are just the beginning. The truly transformative part, the layer that could absorb trillions from the old system, is the third layer, the tokenization of real-world assets, or RWAS. This is the hidden revolution. Tokenization is just creating a digital representation of a physical or financial asset on a blockchain. Think of anything with value: a piece of real estate, a bar of gold, a share of stock, a patent. Today, trading these assets is slow, expensive, and full of middlemen. Tokenization blows that up. By representing these assets as digital tokens, they can be traded instantly, globally, and in tiny fractions. Imagine owning 1/1,000,000th of a skyscraper in Tokyo, or a tiny piece of a new pharmaceutical patent. This unlocks a universe of liquidity and democratizes access to investments once reserved for the ultra wealthy. The scale of this is hard to wrap your head around. The Boston Consulting Group has projected that the market for tokenized assets could swell to a staggering $16 trillion by 2030. That's not a niche market, that's a fundamental replumbing of global finance. A world where value is liquid, borders are irrelevant, and transactions are governed by code, not gatekeepers. Finally, there's the fourth layer, tying it all together: cross-border payments. For decades, the global system has relied on a network called SWIFT. It's slow, expensive, and only works on banking hours. It's the aging heart of the dollar system. Now, blockchain-based alternatives are challenging its dominance. Projects like Ripple, with its XRP ledger, and Stellar, are built for fast, low-cost international payments. A transaction that takes days and costs a fortune can be settled in 3 to 5 seconds for a fraction of a cent. While SWIFT is still the dominant player, its market share is being chipped away. As of 2025, RippleNet's infrastructure is being used by hundreds of institutional partners in dozens of countries to move real value. To be realistic, these platforms haven't replaced SWIFT overnight, and some potential partners have chosen other solutions. But the trend is undeniable. A new set of financial rails is being laid, and they are faster, cheaper, and more efficient than the old ones. This is the hidden blockchain from the title. It's not one single project. It's the convergence of these four layers: a sound money philosophy like Bitcoin, a stable medium of exchange like USDC, the tokenization of all the world's assets, and new rails to move that value instantly. This is the decentralized alternative. It's messy, it's chaotic, and it's evolving in real time. It's the Wild West compared to the walled garden of a CBDC, but it's also where the promise of a truly open and free financial system lies. So far, we've painted a picture of two different futures: the top-down, centralized control of CBDCs and the bottom-up, decentralized chaos of public blockchains. For years, these two worlds seemed destined for war. But what if they're starting to merge? What if the most powerful financial institutions on Earth are quietly building a bridge between them? This is where our investigation leads us to the Bank for International Settlements, or the BIS. You can think of the BIS as the central bank for central banks. It's one of the most powerful and secretive financial organizations in the world. And in April 2024, the BIS announced a groundbreaking initiative that could represent the next phase in money's evolution. It's called Project Agora. Project Agora is described as an exploration into tokenized cross-border payments, but it's the sheer scale of the project that demands attention. This isn't some small experiment. It brings together 7 of the world's most powerful central banks, including the New York Fed, the Bank of England, the Bank of Japan, and the European Central Bank, along with a massive group of over 40 private financial giants. The stated goal of Project Agora is to build something called a unified ledger. The idea is to create a new financial infrastructure that combines tokenized commercial bank deposits with tokenized central bank money, all on a single programmable platform. This system would use blockchain tech and smart contracts to make cross border payments instant and cheap, solving the exact problems projects like Ripple have been working on for years. Let's be very clear about what this means. The powers that be aren't just looking at CBDCs anymore. They are actively experimenting with the core tech of the decentralized world, tokenization and unified ledgers, to upgrade the entire global banking system. The BIS isn't trying to build a public blockchain, but they are taking its most potent ideas. They are looking to create a permissioned system that offers the efficiency of blockchain without what they see as the regulatory chaos of a truly open network. Project Agora is the missing link. It's the layer that connects the world of government money with the world of tokenized assets. It's not a secret conspiracy. It's a public-private partnership announced in press releases. But it is happening behind the closed doors of the global financial elite, and it represents a profound synthesis. It shows the debate is no longer if blockchain will reshape finance, but how. The project is building prototypes through 2025 and is expected to release a report on its findings in the first half of 2026. This isn't a finished product. The BIS is careful to call it experimental, but it is the most significant clue we have about where the global financial system is heading. It points to a hybrid future where money is tokenized, where commercial and central bank money coexist on the same ledger, and where smart contracts automate complex financial deals. The implications are breathtaking. Such a system could solve the technical problems of the old financial world, but it also concentrates immense power. The institutions in Project Agora are the gatekeepers of the current system. While they are adopting the technology of the revolution, they're doing it in a way that could preserve their central role. This is the sophisticated and arguably more realistic version of a great monetary reset. Not a sudden switch, but a gradual migration of the old system onto new, more efficient, and vastly more powerful rails. Project Agora is the blueprint, and it's being built right now. This is the moment it all starts to click. The puzzle pieces are connecting, and the future is coming into focus. If you want to continue this journey and truly understand the forces reshaping our world, consider supporting our work directly through the Patreon link in the description. Your support allows us to do deep independent research like this without relying on sponsors. So, let's circle back to that first question. Is there a hidden blockchain that will replace the dollar? As we've discovered, the answer is far more complex and fascinating than a simple yes or no. There is no single secret blockchain being built in a basement to overthrow the world order. The reality is that the replacement of the dollar-centric system is happening in plain sight through a chaotic multi-front evolution. It's not one hidden blockchain, it's a hidden war of ideologies fought with technology. On one side, you have the decentralized world, a sprawling ecosystem of public blockchains, stablecoins, and tokenized assets. This is the path of permissionless innovation. It offers financial sovereignty, privacy, and a system free from the control of any single entity. It is the grassroots rebellion against a failing monetary system. It's a dream of a world where you are your own bank. But it's also volatile, complex, and faces immense regulatory hurdles. On the other side, you have the centralized response. First, there was the specter of retail CBDCs, a vision of programmable money that offered efficiency at the potential cost of freedom. In the United States, that path has been blocked for now. But in its place, a more sophisticated model is emerging, seen in projects like Agora. This is the path of institutional adoption, a hybrid model where the world's most powerful banks are adopting the tools of the rebellion, tokenization, smart contracts, unified ledgers, and integrating them into a new, permissioned, and highly controlled system. This is the great simplification that is often missed. The future isn't a binary choice between a totalitarian Fed coin and a liberating Bitcoin. It is far more likely to be a messy, competitive landscape where all of these systems coexist. A world with government-halted CBDCs in some nations, massive digital yuan pilots in others, thriving networks of private stablecoins, a multi-trillion-dollar market for tokenized real-world assets, and behind it all, new institutional ledgers like the one in Project Agora, aiming to be the new plumbing for it all. The dollar as we know it won't be replaced overnight by a single new currency. Instead, its role as the undisputed global reserve will likely continue to erode, challenged not by one thing, but by everything all at once.
It will be challenged by other fiat currencies, by stablecoins, by decentralized assets, and by new efficient payment rails that make the dollar's dominance less relevant.
What does this mean for you? It means that standing still is the riskiest move you can make. The very definition of money and asset is being rewritten. Understanding the difference between a government controlled digital currency and a truly decentralized asset is no longer a niche hobby. It is essential financial literacy for the 21st century. Your ability to preserve and grow your wealth in the coming decade may hinge on your ability to navigate this new landscape. The financial system is breaking, the elites of the world know it, the innovators of the world know it, and now you know it too. Two new systems are being built to replace it. One is being built for you, the other is being built by you. The question you must now ask yourself is, which one will you choose to be a part of?